Okay, welcome to IA208. This is a brand new PLC, new to our course. It is in the latest generation of Allen Bradley PLCs. Allen Bradley is the most popular PLC in this region and probably in the United States. It is an extremely high-powered and sturdy and reliable device. This one is in the Micro850 PLC family. The Micro850 has got some built-in inputs and outputs, but you can also plug in additional racks for inputs and outputs, such as analog and digital's additional. So it's got a combination of things that make it a very flexible, small, and reasonably priced PLC. So what we're going to do in this particular video is unbox this. We're going to emphasize how you take things out, what they are. When you look at them, you'll recognize them. And we're going to also emphasize keeping all your packaging, keeping all your components safe, and making sure that you can put them back in the box when you return your kits to the school. These are very expensive kits. They were part of a grant from Perkins, and we need to maintain them. If you don't return them in the condition that they were delivered to you, then you will be charged. So let's get into the unboxing. There is a factory seal. In most cases, you guys will have a new PLC box, which factory seal will be not broken. If there is a factory seal is broken, then you'll have received a kit that was returned and then was checked out by me, so it should also be perfect. You cut the little seal, you pull back the little flap, and you gently lift the flap of the end cover. Now that gently doing it means you're not going to rip it or tear it. Ripping or tearing it means that this box won't be able to go back the way you found it. Once you've opened up the end, you can easily slide out the inner box. Your inner box, you can just set aside the outer box. Your inner box, somewhere safe, don't throw away the outer box. The inner box will show you you've got two areas in this box, and the first one is the PLC itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to lift out the PLC from its cradle, which we have to kind of wiggle it out to get it from inside the cardboard tray. But once you've wiggled it out, you should be able to tuck that tray back into place. And now you've got your PLC. The PLC covers is pretty much ready to go. It's got a plastic cover on it with a flap here. The plastic cover says, don't rip the cover off, right? And then it says, screw the PLC in place and then rip the cover off. Well, we're actually going to have to ignore that instruction. Instead, what we're going to do is just rip the cover off. This cover itself, we can discard. I'm actually just going to stick it to the top of the box there. So if I ever want it back, I can unpeel it from there. But we're not ever planning on mounting these PLCs as part of this course. We're just going to use these PLCs loose. So let's talk about this PLC. The PLC, I'll briefly go through it. You've got power input here where you can plug in your 120 volts. You've got an L, which will be your black wire from your your pigtail that plugs into 120 volts. N will be your white wire, and you got a little ground symbol where you put your green wire. This is your power supply on this end of it. The power supply has inputs on the top for your 120 volts and outputs on the bottom for your 24 volt DC. This doesn't have any internal wires to the PLC. So you're going to need to wire up this guy to this guy. In other words, you're going to have to hook the power supply to the PLC smarts itself. The PLC smarts, the actual CPU portion, the central processing portion, where the actual microcomputer chip is this little module right here. And it's got little LED lights telling you its status, power, run, fault, force, or COM status. It's got input indicators here showing if inputs are on. It's got output indicators here showing if outputs are on. it's got a series of plugs behind these clear plastic plates where you can plug in different communications. For this course, you guys are going to plug into the USB cable, which is the one in the middle. What you're going to do is you're going to pop open that little plug and gently drop it out. And then you're going to save this in the box, right? And you're going to put it back in there when you return this PLC to the box. All right. The top row here are where you wire in your inputs, and the bottom row here are where you wire in your outputs and your 24-volt power supply. So that's all I'll talk about there on your PLC. We're going to get back to that in a second. So now we're going to open up this portion of your box, and we're going to slide out from here. Number one, you're going to see a documentation packet. You do not need to open this packet for this course. So I would just set this aside and tuck it back into the box when you're done. You do not need to use the Ethernet cable for this course. You may want to play around with your HMI, but you don't need to for this course. But don't lose that cable. Keep it there. What you will need for this course is your USB cable. So don't throw away the packaging. Pop open this bundle. Take the twisty ties off the cable. You might want to save those. I guess it's not required to save those, but I like to save those. And now you've got your USB cable.
Hey Rob, sorry to cut you off. Mine was one with the seal already broken, and I don't have some of that packaging that you're pulling it out. I assume you said you went through everything and that was okay.
It should be okay. I'm a little concerned. I thought I distributed brand new kits to everyone, so I'll have to take a look at yours and make sure that we have all the parts we need.
Okay.
Okay. So as I pop this open, I realized that I unplugged the wrong cable here. So we're going to put that back in there. We're going to pop this one off. Okay, because this is where the USB cable goes in down here. And as you can see, you've got a USB cable. Actually, I think it's exactly the same wiring as a standard USB printer cable. So you probably could use a standard USB printing cable for this application, but don't use this one instead. This is shielded. All right, so that's the cable you need. Let's take these other parts and slide them back into this top kit here. Okay, so now we're down here into the bottom, and there's two parts in the bottom we really want. We're going to leave the HMI in there for this course, but these two parts we want are here. This one, which is a simulation I/O board, and we'll pop that open in a minute. And the other one is the 2-point analog input module. Now let's talk about what we're doing with these two. Number one, this is a simulated I/O board. Careful when you hold this. You want to hold it from the edges so you don't short it out. On this are a bunch of switches. With these switches, we can simulate inputs to the PLC. By flipping these switches, I can simulate inputs to the PLC. We also can simulate outputs because I have little output lights that can go on. And this can simulate analog outputs as well. So I can actually, and analog inputs. So I can use this as an analog input. By adjusting this little pot here, I can control the voltage level that this PLC reads. And you don't know what analog inputs or outputs are yet, but you will. And you will be having instructions on how to install this later on. The last piece that you're going to be using in this particular unboxing is this I/O module. And you got to cut the seal on this. And inside here is the I/O module. What you're going to do is you're going to pop off one of your covers, the first cover to the left. You're going to open up the I/O module. And you're going to very carefully interface your I/O module with your PLC by lining up the little plugs and pressing it gently into place. So now your I/O module is installed here. What I'd like you to do after that is you can screw it down if you want to. That's not really required though. I want you to take this cover, put it inside here, take the little baggie, the EMF baggie, slide that in there, and just save this underneath here without the module in it. So that way your module will stay in the PLC. You can return the module in the PLC like this. That's perfectly fine. If you want to screw it down, that's fine too. So that's the bottom line. Now, in addition to that, what you might want to do is install, you're going to have to take this off when you return it, but you can now set aside your box. And now let's talk about installing the I/O board. Your inputs are on the top here. So what you want to do is line these up so that first these little legs on here is labeled COM0, and this first little input is labeled COM0. What you want to do is loosen up all of these little screws. I think they're already loose. Then slide these in here. So this board is now pressed into there, and then tighten up these screws. I'm going to tighten IO7 first, and then COM0 second, gently, and then just work my way down, tightening all of the little screws as I go. Now, the only tool that I'm using so far has been a knife to gently open these packages and this little screwdriver. Now, this little screwdriver right here is a very handy screwdriver to have. It is a high quality screwdriver. It's got a little Phillips head on one end, and it's got a flat head on the other. You'll need both of these for different parts of your work. This one was given away free from a PLC manufacturer called Square D. And it's a nice little inexpensive one. And that's all we need to do. So now this PLC is ready to be wired up. It's got simulation boards here on the top. Now, when you have it in this kind of condition, do not throw it in the bag or let it rattle around. If you bump into this board, you'll potentially break the board or you might damage the PLC. So when you've got it set up like this, it should stay pretty much static on your desktop. You're going to need to wire in the inputs, the power input and the DC to the DC input right here. And we're going to do that in one of the future labs. But basically, this ends the unboxing and initial assembly.